Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk. Today on the docket, first, you forget your keys in the car. Maybe you forget your wallet, but you don't forget your children. This mother from Denver is not going to get the Mother of the Year award. A quick update on Malia Davis. The Supreme Court is considering accepting the case of a woman alleging that rape kits aren't being processed quickly enough. And Trump to the Eddie Gallagher prosecutors, you're fired. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Scott Reisch of Crime Talk. Thanks for watching. If you like the channel, please subscribe. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up, leave us a comment, and if you want to receive notifications, hit that little bell so that you receive updates of when new content or when we go live comes out. First on the docket, we have the case of Juan Rodriguez. Juan Rodriguez is a 39-year-old man who apparently had his 1-year-old twins somehow in the backseat of the car, took them to work, didn't realize until he was on the way home some 8 hours later, after temperatures had reached some 92 degrees, pulls over and realizes the children are in there and screams, and the children are ultimately pronounced dead. Mr. Rodriguez was arrested. The district attorney was in the process of presenting the case to the district attorney. Now, Mr. Rodriguez's attorney, to his credit, made a personal plea to the district attorney saying this is a horrific accident, a horrible accident, and that Mr. Rodriguez will suffer the rest of his days knowing that he was responsible for the death of his children. The district attorney, although Mr. Rodriguez was ordered back again on August 27th for a status update, the district attorney does not plan on presenting any further evidence to the grand jury, which would normally indicate that the case is not going forward. Well, let's talk about this, ladies and gentlemen. You forget your keys in the car. Maybe you leave your wallet. Maybe you leave your purse in the car. I just cannot imagine how someone leaves their twins in the car. Did they not think, oh, I'm dropping the twins off. I wonder if they're doing okay. Oh my God, I forgot to take the twins to the daycare. I have all the admiration and respect for Mr. Rodriguez's defense attorney for pleading this case and for potentially convincing the district attorney not to go forward. But these are the type of cases I just do not understand. I have seen cases where people left their children in the car and it was cold and they had frostbite or they have died. I have had clients prosecuted for bringing or for keeping their dogs in a hot car. I have had clients prosecuted when they were at the gas pump and the child was sleeping and the windows were open and they ran inside to, pay for their gas or to grab something really quick and the children were sleeping. But the parents always had line of sight on those particular children. Here, the man goes to work for 8 hours and doesn't realize or think about his kids. That's not just an accident. That's criminally negligent homicide or at the most reckless manslaughter. As a father, I could not imagine just forgetting about your kids for 8 hours. I think about my children even when they're grown adults, if they're okay today. And I'd probably like to think I would not be so busy that I would remember if they were in the back seat of my car, particularly if they were less than 1 year old. I appreciate the personal tragedy. I have cases pending right now where it is an accident and somebody died and the prosecutor is going forward on a negligent or a reckless theory where somebody resulted in death and the person is deeply emotional, distraught, and will think about this every day, but yet the prosecutors go forward. So this is a difficult case. I can understand the father's emotion, the grief and the guilt that he's going to feel for the rest of his life because of this. But I also think when you have a case where some 52 children died last year for being left in hot cars and some 25 already this year alone, it's the kind of thing where perhaps a message needs to be sent that this can't continue to happen. The next case on the docket is a case about a mother who is not going to get the Mother of the Year award. She pled guilty today in Denver District Court for child abuse resulting in death. Her name is Alicia Pankey. She's 43 years old. When the police were investigating a domestic violence report, they were ultimately led to a storage unit that Miss Pankey and her boyfriend occupied at that particular time. When the officers executed the search warrant, they discovered a dog carrier containing a block of cement in the dog carrier. What further investigation revealed was that a child by the name of Caden McWilliams was in that block of cement. The medical examiner determined that the child passed away many months before, and they determined that the child was extremely emaciated, consistent with malnutrition. Additionally, there were numerous injuries on the head, trunk, and extremities. The body also had traces of a cocaine metabolite and meth in the liver tissue, and the injuries were possibly determined to be that of a blunt force trauma around the forehead, nasal bone, and the right eye. Young Caden McWilliams was only 7 years old, and the boyfriend of Miss Pankey is still awaiting murder charges. These are the type of cases that seriously make you wonder how anybody can simply be a parent and how cruel can anyone be to a child. It sometimes simply destroys your faith in humanity. The next update that we have is the Maleah Davis case. For those of you who don't recall, Malia Davis was 4 years old. Her mother was dating an individual by the name of Darian Marquise Vence. Mr. Vence came up with a story that he had been carjacked by what he described as Mexican males, and they stole his car. The car was ultimately recovered. Apparently, Mr. Vence then confessed to his girlfriend, the mother of Malia, and stating that she was deceased. They ultimately found Malia's body in a field in Arkansas. Curiously, Mr. Vence has only been charged with tampering with evidence up through this point. And apparently the case has been complicated because the body found in the field had been run over by many lawnmowers. Now, Mr. Vence was seen at about the time on video cameras leaving his apartment carrying a laundry basket that appeared to be full. When the car was recovered, the laundry basket was located with a can of gasoline in there as well. Originally, Mr. Vence has stated to his girlfriend that he had done something and that Malia was dead. Why the district attorney down there in Houston is not prosecuting this case is a little surprising given the evidence. They have a deceased body. They have basically a confession, and they can probably show that he lied to the police originally, which clearly shows consciousness of guilt, but yet they're still not going forward. We'll just have to wait and see. I've been talking so much today. Thank goodness my Crime Talk mug is here to fulfill my thirst. And if you'd like to get a Crime Talk mug, you can hit that link below and you can order it, and it'll be at your house within a few days, I believe. So definitely buy one. Now, the next case we want to talk about on the docket is that of a case that is currently pending on what is called writ of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court. If you sue in United States District Court and you lose, you then appeal to the circuit courts. And there's various circuits scattered all over the country. And if you lose there, your next step is to appeal to the United States Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court does not take and review every case that any of the circuits issue an opinion on. That's why it's called a writ of certiorari. It's a request for the court to hear the case. About 8,000 petitions for a writ of certiorari are sent to the Supreme Court every year. About 3% are ever actually accepted for the court, and the Supreme Court will issue a ruling. I currently have a case pending writ of certiorari at the United States Supreme Court. It is very agonizing waiting to see if they will accept your case. Chances are they probably won't, but it's still pretty darn exciting. But this case comes from a case that was initiated in California. And a woman by the name of Heather Marlowe was unfortunately, and as she alleged, drugged and raped by a stranger attending a city-sponsored event. And she is suing the city of San Francisco and the police department, alleging that they have a pattern and practice of failing to investigate sexual assault cases. Now, this is a real issue. I can tell you here in the state of Colorado, they had a huge backlog on sexual assault kits because they would do the SANE, which is the Sex Assault Nurse Examiner Rape Kit, and it would go off to the police. And whether the complaining witness didn't want to pursue the case or they didn't think they had enough evidence to go forward, it would sit there. They actually passed legislation saying that providing money to get through these backlogs. So it's a real thing. Anyway, so Ms. Marlowe began her suit. The Ninth Circuit dismissed the case, saying that she was barred by the 2-year statute of limitations. The issue is that Ms. Marlowe is alleging that the statute of limitations should not begin to run until she's made aware of the actual denial. Because for many, many years, some 7 years, Ms. Marlowe was told by the police that the kit was not done, that it was simply a backlog, and that frankly the police were too busy investigating other real crimes. So Ms. Marlowe didn't find out until some 7 years later that basically the kit was not properly maintained and the results ultimately did not warrant a usable sample of DNA. And so Ms. Marlowe is suing, saying that the city should have done the tests and that these irregularities were basically by hiring incompetent people and that these cases didn't get the priority that they deserve. There's about a 3% chance the Supreme Court of the United States will actually take this case, but it is an interesting issue. But based upon some of the recent Supreme Court cases that have come down as it relates to suing the government, it's unlikely that Ms. Marlowe will prevail. But hopefully somebody in California will say, you know what, these backlogs need to be done. They need to be tested, checked for DNA, that evidence put into the DNA database system so they can be checked against samples that are being considered and people are under investigation for, thereby freeing people if they're being wrongfully accused of any sort of sexual assault and hopefully getting the right individual. Now, the final case on the docket today is President Trump once again speaks out on the Eddie Gallagher case. For those of you who do not recall, Chief Eddie Gallagher was a Navy SEAL, served multiple missions in Iraq and Afghanistan, and was accused of killing an enemy combatant who basically was trying to kill Americans. It was alleged that he either stabbed the young combatant in the neck and then it was the chest. And at trial, the medic that was working on the young combatant said that he was the one that in fact killed the young combatant by suffocating him, sort of a mercy killing, because he didn't want the Iraqi army to get a hold of this individual and probably torture and then kill him. Eddie Gallagher was in confinement and President Trump intervened and said, remove him from confinement. Chief Gallagher was reduced. He was found guilty of 1 count of posing with a corpse, reduced 1 pay grade from a chief to a chief petty officer. He was reduced 1 pay grade from an E7 to an E6, which is significant because he's no longer a chief petty officer. He's simply a petty officer. He was sentenced to 4 months of confinement, and he had more than that, so basically the case was done. Well, the Navy, in all of their infinite wisdom, said, we're going to give Navy achievement medals to all of the prosecutors that helped prosecute Chief Gallagher. Now, let's look at some of the prosecutors that prosecuted Chief Gallagher. They failed miserably. They should not be getting Navy achievement medals. They should be getting letters of reprimand. One of the prosecutors was released from the case because he apparently put software on the discovery, which is all the investigative reports, to track it and see what the defense was doing. Not only is that probably illegal, it's unethical, and that attorney should be concerned about having his law license suspended or being disbarred and not worried about getting medals. The remaining prosecutors put on a terrible case, didn't prepare their witnesses properly. And in fact, when a witness that you give immunity to says that he was in fact the real killer, somebody didn't think this case through. Somebody took this case forward probably for their own personal recognition and not on a true quest of justice. So whether you like President Trump or not always agreeing with what he does, this one, though, I think he did absolutely correct. He is the commander-in-chief, and he can tell the people in his chain of command these people warrant a meritorious mast or a medal, and he can also say that they don't as well. The Chief of Naval Operations, after seeing the president's tweet today, withdrew those medals, and frankly, correctly so. Thank you for watching Crime Talk today. If you like the channel, please subscribe. If you would like to receive the newsletter that we put out once a week, go to scottreisch.com, sign up, and for the first 5 people who sign up today, we will send you a Crime Talk mug. Don't list your address. We'll reach out to the first 5 on the email. Have a great day. Thanks for watching Crime Talk. I hope you enjoyed it.